Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. I'm Kevin Coyne. This is the Venture Outfitter. Excited for today. We're going to in the pre-screen part. We're excited because I think with the people that we have in the studio audience already, we have I don't know, at least 10 different countries represented. So welcome to the Venture Outfitter, the Venture Outfitter Weekly. Part of what we're going to be talking about today is the wisdom of the crowds. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background behind that as well. So welcome to Venture Outfitter. The whole idea here is a part of the role of Tech Ranch is to discover talent, develop talent, connect talent to opportunity, and help it scale. And we do this as a community that's working together to push our ventures forward. So thank you for being here today. Word from our sponsor, Linda Blackman and the team at DualWorks have some great offices here in Austin. We just had another one of y'all move into this area here, whether it's as a co-working or closed door office right at the middle of Austin. And if you're out of the country and you need a physical point of presence and address, she does that as well. So, or her team has that set up as well. So please take advantage of that. If you want more information, just go to techranch.com/dualworks. Or if you have questions, make sure you just ask me or Jello, and we'll connect you up to the right people. I had been in a previous time talking about the Venture Outfitter, and everyone thought, oh wait, the only way to get in is if I pay. And part of what I want to make sure that I'm mentioning on this slide is we want you in the community. If you're not in the community, make sure you get into the community. Now, there are other programs that obviously Tech Ranch is a business, not a charity, so we actually have to make money. And I'll be announcing next week one of the newest programs that we're going to be launching. I'll give you a preview for it since you're here today. We've done a lot of group coaching in the past. And sometimes you need something to set yourself up for success, because a lot of us are isolated, especially coming out of COVID, the COVID economy and all that sort of stuff. And so we'll be coming up with a virtual coaching process for tying into the groups. This will be bargain priced. We'll tell you more about it next week. But if you're not already in the Slack channel, and you're not in our Mighty Network, get into it. There's no charge. The only thing that we ask for is that you play nice and that you're here to really drive shared prosperity. We especially are here to cater towards entrepreneurs. And then also, even this morning, I got another request for being a mentor in the group. We kind of have a mentor program for prepping our mentors as we go through the process. More coming soon about that. I'll tell you how to sign up for that later in the program. Coming soon. So mental health startups. We are going to have next week's program focused on, there's a lot. I'm the chairman of this mental health special interest group as part of the Texas Global Health Security Initiative. And part of what's at chance or possible right now is we've gotten the Meadows Institute as well as the Hogg Foundation, both of them are mental health organizations, to get involved in our process. And I want to make sure that you know about it and that the wider community knows how to plug into this initiative. This has gone from the founder of Tech Ranch's pet project of working with mental health startups that largely get ignored across the world to something that's now taking a lot of, it's got a lot of energy behind it. I want to make sure that there's specific ideas about how to plug into that. Secondly, one of the members of the mental health startup group, or my committee, I have a committee as part of the Texas Global Health Security Initiative, that they are launching the Texas Suicide Prevention Symposium. This is online, March 1st through 3rd. Go to the techranch.com/events calendar. You can get all the details there. The problem is that from the standpoint of global health security, suicide rates are way up. And so part of what I'm wanting to make sure that we leverage our network to do is to help that organization as well. That's happening on March 1st through the 3rd, and you can get the details at techranch.com/events. Secondly, the Global Health Security Innovation Week, which is going to be in conjunction with South by Southwest. This is a virtual program. You'll be able to sign up for the Global Health Security and Innovation Week for free. Details again at the events calendar. The specific target, though, that if you're in, infectious diseases or pandemics, or especially mental health and community resiliency, in the mental health and community resiliency, you have an inside line being plugged into me personally, because I'm the chairman of that group. So let us know, and on the next slide, I'll have a link to that. And then as well, the Texas EU Business Summit, we're going to have, we are supporting that process, that program, as we've done in the past with the World Affairs Council here in Austin. And we're going to be talking specifically there about the Texas-Hungary Venture Bridge and some of the success that's already come out of that bridge. Final thing, if you do know someone that should be pitching, and they like a 3-minute pitch, pre-recorded, send them to that mental health pitch bit.ly link. It's really critical. I'm surprised we haven't gotten more signups yet, because there's a free opportunity to get in front of investors around the world in mental health. And so even if it's just as a personal favorite to me, although it's for the world, but to me, it's a free opportunity to sign up. And we'll get you exposure. And it's not just on events of March 14th and March 15th. When you get $1 billion foundation next to another multi-million-dollar foundation around mental health on the same page, it's kind of interesting what's possible. So some other stuff. In fact, I just got confirmation that one of our partner universities in Monterrey, Mexico, Tec de Monterrey, is going to be involved in this as well. So. And it's not just the event, it's actually the impact over the long term for that. So that brings us to a context for today. What is Venture Outfitter Weekly? What is TechRanch attempting to do? What's this program today all about? I want to refer to a book called The Wealth of Networks. It's a play on the words The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, but The Wealth of Networks. There's a guy who's a professor at Yale. In fact, this is one of many books that I might point to. It's one of my favorite books of all times. It is pretty dense. It's hard to read. It's like, read 3 pages, it's like eating pennies. Lots of nutrition, but really, really dense. So I could only read about 3 pages at a time just because it's that intense. But there's a concept called commons based peer production. That is, we're working on a commons with each other, right? We have our attention that we can share back and forth. And then through sharing our attention, we can actually make things happen. In the Linux world, in the software development world, there are 15,000 developers from 1,500 companies that have contributed to the Linux kernel. And because they've contributed to this Linux kernel, they've built this beast of a system that now powers most of the cell phones out there, most of the computers that are serving up code out there, serving up the internet out there as well. We could go into the dynamics about that, and we're going to save that for another Venture Outfitter Weekly. But part of what I want to point to is an opportunity for you to get plugged in to the community around your venture that can help drive things forward. Over the last few weeks, we've had some collaboration around healthcare. Last week, we actually had a bunch of people who raised their hand and said, "Hey, I'm in EdTech, and I'd like to actually do some more stuff." And the interesting thing about that was, because of that EdTech interaction, we now have the EdTech Slack channel. Actually, we've had the EdTech Slack channel for a while, but one of our members, one of our entrepreneurs who's driving activities in education and is committed to driving that forward. His name is Stephen Galbraith. He said, "Hey, I'll be the peer leader of that group." And immediately at the same time, I went ahead and took advantage of reaching out to a colleague that's formerly of a place called Pearson, which is one of the largest education technology companies in the world. The woman that I recruited, I actually recruited her into that same group, and because there's a peer leader there, namely Stephen, this former chief academic officer for Pearson, former chief innovation officer for Pearson, who actually left Pearson to go she's like, "Hey, I love being in that environment, but I want to go be more of a pioneer." She's now in that group together, and there I've already started interacting. And it's not that, Stephen or, Holly, who I'm talking about, and we'll look at this at the end of the presentation today. We'll look at the specific Slack channel so you can see some of the activities. The thing that we're setting up is a community that you can totally take advantage of for driving your venture. Now, we're going to have a taste of that today as we get into this concept called the wisdom of the crowds. Or the wisdom of the crowd. The wisdom of the crowd. The whole idea about it is, none of us can be experts. Or we can be an expert, but the truth is that the world's now changing so much that if we have this loose coupling to other entrepreneurs, we can beat up on markets together. Or one of the metaphors that I've said many times is if you want to take on the whales and the sharks of the world, the way you do it is you get a school of piranhas, because there is no whale, no shark that could actually stand against a whole school of piranhas, right? The school of the piranhas, what do the piranhas represent? They represent you and your ventures. The key thing, though, is actually organizing together. So with that, I'm going to introduce to you Ines Meneses, who's joined the community, someone that I know from 20 years ago. I practiced Aikido with her 20 years ago, and we would throw each other around and all that sort of stuff. And Aikido is a martial art that is about, embracing conflict without resorting to violence. The whole idea about it is like working with each other and learning how we can become stronger in our whole process of doing that. Make a long story short, she's a good friend. She lives between Michigan and right now is in Brazil. She's an expert in this work. She's taken the early stage knowledge of Aikido and now gone off and gotten several degrees, several certifications, and I'll let her tell you the other details. But with that, Ines, welcome. Good to have you here.
Hi, thank you, Kevin. Welcome, everyone. As Kevin mentioned, I am sitting in Brazil right now in my parents' home, and I would love to hear where you're sitting and where you're calling from. So if you would please put in the chat your name and the city and country where you're calling from. And we have David calling from Prague, Czech Republic, Emilia from Brazil, Ada from Colombia, Randall, Austin, Texas, Stephen, Florida, Delhi, India, Muncie, Kevin from Austin too, Omer from Austin as well, Jealous from the Philippines, Mabel in Grand Rapids, Michigan, US, Ron, London, Kim in Spoke, Jorge from Mexico, Joel in representing San Francisco, California, and Omar from Mobile, Alabama, Grace from California as well. And we have Walter in Germany, and you're Brazilian, just like I am, and Emita as well. Okay, good to know, everybody. So we're gonna, you see that today we'll be using both the chat and the audio. So feel free to use whichever medium that you're more comfortable with, or maybe just the timing is feels more appropriate. And the way that this will work, it's kind of like when, just imagine that we are in a circle. We are in an imaginary virtual circle and we're just hanging out and having good conversation. And someone wants to step into the circle and be the center of that conversation for a few minutes. So those of you who would like to volunteer, you will raise your electronic hand. So for those of you who are new to the concept of electronic hand, if you go in the bottom of your screen to the right, there's a button called reactions. You click on that, and then there are a few options, and one of the options says raise your hand. So let's just make sure that everybody can do that, and just click raise your electronic hand, just like I did, so that I can see that you all can reach that. And we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There you go. Okay, thank you. So you may lower your hand now. So the way that it works, so please let's have everybody lower your hands. And so in a minute, I will just ask you to volunteer if you'd like. And what I mean by that is that you will raise your hand, and then just randomly we'll call one of you, and you just open your mic and you will share. Maybe you have a win that you want to share and brag about and celebrate with us. Maybe there's something that you're struggling with that you would like to ask for guidance or support. So whatever it is that you want to share, you just step in, and then everybody will respond both on the chat and virtually. Then people just jump in and answer your question or make comments about what you did. So who would like to be the first?
What would be an example of something that you'd want someone to like? What's an example problem that one of us might actually ask for?
Okay, I can share when to brag about. And so there is this person that I was very afraid to reaching out to. And actually I procrastinated reaching out to this person, not only months, but even not only weeks, but even months. And then actually when I reached out to this person, they were very excited to reconnect with me and even consider the possibility of doing business with me. And guess who that person is? That's you, Kevin. So I'm very proud of myself for having overcome all my self-judgment and like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. He's so successful in his career. He's not even want to talk to me anymore. So I'm happy for getting over myself.
Yeah, well, on my side, I've been humbled by life and business many times. So I don't know. I hope I never create that kind of impression on anybody. But thanks for being here, Ines.
Well, I made that up.
Cool. Who else would like to share something?
Maybe you have a question, a request for support.
One of the ways of doing this is there might be an area like as an example, Omar Shaker was working on a program with doctors and doctor burnout in Egypt. And one of the times he brought up, hey, I'm working on this. And then there was two other people who got involved in the conversation, one in Mexico, one in Italy. I can call on people and say, hey, come on. I know that you guys are holding back if you don't have anything to work on just yet. I'm sure you might not be used to this idea, but let's go ahead and let me have a couple of you step in. Stephen Galbraith, if you're still here, a while ago you were here and then it looked like your name changed. What are you working on EdTech that would actually be something that you'd like to get other people involved in?
So are we thinking, because I was trying to understand the question before chiming in. So I don't have a request right now, but help me with the question. Like where do we want to go with the conversation?
How would you like to have people?
Whatever is present for you, whatever is meaningful and important and present for you.
Yep. Just kind of give a little background. So I've been transitioning from, a career I've had for 20 plus years into this venture because it's needed, and making that transition for me is because it's so much more important, and the problem that we're solving is so much more important to society that it helps it helps me align to what I feel my purpose is. Giving that same, like something we've been working on the last few weeks is how do we actually help teachers do that as well? Because teachers have a, let's call it a side hustle or so, or something that they're interested in. So one thing we've been working on the last couple of weeks is how do we actually help promote that as well to keep them engaged, to keep them excited about what they're doing in teaching. We've been working with making small donations to the schools to help promote that that side work for teachers as well. So that's kind of, that's present for me the last couple weeks.
Does anybody want to comment, ask him any questions, or post anything in the chat?
How can people help you, Stephen?
Pardon?
Mm.
What did you just say, Kevin?
Oh, I was just saying, how can they help him? Maybe he's got a really important mission.
Yep.
And anytime you have a really important mission and you're kind of there alone, isolated, you and your co-founder, like in the cold of fighting against Florida's education system, there's got to be something you need.
Contacts to spread the word, right? So yesterday there was a huge, I forget what channel it was on, but it was on one of the main media channels here in Tampa. And so we got 3 reporters' names, and we got 2 other local contacts who were talking about how Florida is short 4,500 teachers in total. So we grabbed those contacts and we're starting to call them right away, because that's sort of, we don't want to take on too much publicity right now. Kevin and you and I have talked about that earlier. It's like how much attention do we really want right now? But we do want to kind of spread the word to help make sure we're going in the right direction. So maybe contacts that are also show, I guess, contacts that are maybe also showing interest in helping teachers or helping students, people that are aware of the lack of teachers that we have in the profession, whether it be in Florida or any other state. That would be a request. If you have any contacts like that too, whether through media or any other type of publication.
Cool. And so last week you actually brought up the thing about EdTech, and you started getting some organization there. What would you like to see happen in the EdTech channel? Like what about other EdTech startups and professionals would be helpful?
It'd be interesting to see what angle people are taking, right? Because there's many different ways that you can get into the EdTech channel. So ours is with teacher attrition. That's the problem we're solving, right? Some are related to the students and maybe getting the students more engaged. How do you do that? Maybe it's curriculum, whichever too. So I'd be curious, I guess in the Slack channel, I'd be curious to see how people want to help in this, in that space.
So does teacher attrition include certification? Ongoing what do they call them? CE credits?
Yep, CE credits, correct.
So Kevin, you know someone you should introduce them to.
Uh-oh. Who was that? Remind me.
Aaron.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, Aaron. Got it.
Doing teacher certifications.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. I just I took their driver's ed class because I got a ticket. So
he's your buddy. I mean, it's my buddy too. But I mean,
I don't keep track of all our entrepreneurs.
Aaron's always willing to share a cup of coffee and talk about, the tech side of the world. I mean,
yeah. So that's a great example, and this is the other point too, that on building a community that has had thousands of entrepreneurs go through our programs and stuff like that. Sometimes I don't remember specific people, but Aaron's someone I should remember because he started one of Austin's alternative schools as well as
Magellan.
Magellan School. That's a good example. So, Stephen, the thing that on stuff like that, and this is where I happen to know a lot about Stephen's company because I'm involved in coaching a part of his business. But it's really normal, by the way, that as kind of Ines and I are both pointing out that people hold back. You're all used to working alone, and it shows. And what I mean by that is just like the idea of you don't work for anyone else. You could work with other people and going to market and things like that. And this is a good example.
Yep.
And then Randy's here to kind of kick my butt to remind me. Oh wait, yeah, we should invite Aaron into the channel there, so that you have this group of people you can actually turn to. Like Ines is pointing out, hey, maybe we could go to market together or something like that.
Yep. That's why I like, my business partner, Eric, and I were looking at a co-maker space that's here in Tampa. And for that reason, right? Like, just like you have the one in Austin too, you can collaborate with people and share ideas.
And it looks like Emilia would like to chime in as well. And since we have a small group, we can just drop let go of the electronic hands and just open our mics and jump in. Do you still want to say anything, Emilia?
My question was more personal. I'd like to learn how he's dealing with the challenges of changing careers.
And changing with what?
Career. You said you are transitioning your career.
Yes.
I'd like to learn about how do you deal with that? Because many people struggle with that.
Yes, it's a balance, and late hours. So I think when you get crystal clear on a path, things become easy. So understanding first values and boundaries first, and making sure those are concrete and not straying away from those, everything else becomes a lot easier. Yes, it's hard work, but the decision making is a lot easier. And so just reducing the amount of decisions that we have to make, simplifying everything so we can advance, it's been really helpful. But I do sort of a series of goal settings every year. Do that right after Thanksgiving. Spend about 3 or 4 days super quiet and just look at what the next year is going to unfold, and then set everything according to those. And once that's set, I tweak them a little bit during the year, but it's mostly just surrounded around boundaries, foundations, values. Because when our foundations, values are grounded in concrete, decisions become a lot easier.
What do you mean by foundation or foundations?
Like eliminating the what ifs, eliminating the things that you don't feel like you can do, right? So like an example of foundation would be, hey, every day I'm going to start the morning this way, right? I do like a 90 minute smart start ritual where it's like I eat the same breakfast, hit the gym at the same time. And when I do that for 90 minutes, the whole day just is jam-packed with energy. And what that does is that creates energy around other people who then feed off of it. So my goal for this year is to create an environment where people get energized around me. So in order to do that, I have to start every morning that way. And that also helps me when going back to the other lady's question, is balancing both the transition from previous employment to new career path and making sure that those responsibilities are all taken care of too. And it really, it's around aligning with the right people, right? I mean, I sought Kevin out a little less than a year ago, and that took a while. I found him, but it took a while to find out if that was the right path to go. Not through Venture Outfitter, but doing some type of entrepreneurial coaching. I've always believed in coaching. I think it's so important. I tell my kids, you know, because sometimes they don't want to see a tutor. So I'm like, Dad's got 5 tutors helping him out. So that's okay. You want to have good people around you too, because if you have good people around you, like we're doing now, we're sharing ideas, and those ideas come out to, hey, Kevin's going to give me an introduction to Aaron. Maybe that turns into something, right? So those are all positive steps.
Stephen, do you feel complete, or would you like to share anything else?
Unless anyone has any other questions.
Okay. So we'll just thank you, Stephen.
Yep.
And thank you, everybody who contributed. Oh, we have something else from Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, after long times of delay, I would appreciate feedback on the concept is the best way to explain to the rest of my team sales, how to build a sales funnel. After a long delay, I did a soft launch on our product regionally, and we're starting to get overwhelmed with response. And I need to take my technology people and understand that what they're doing actually has impact. So who has a free tool without learning a new software product or resources they can point to? Not that I've been through venture forth, Kevin, so I understand the sales forward funnel, but I need to explain it to the rest of the team. So if anybody has any resources to how to, you know, tell people what to expect to build a sales funnel, we're starting to get responses, we're starting to build that. I need to help the rest of my team prioritize, you know, building a sales funnel so we can deliver the product.
Do you already have a CRM implemented, Kim?
No.
And for those of y'all that don't know what a CRM stands for, it stands for Customer Relationship Management. It's a system for managing all of that type of information. So the one that we're using, and we're using just the free level, is called Hubspot.
Okay.
Now, TechCrunch can, for those of y'all that need the advanced level of HubSpot, we can get you discounts on advanced level. But the truth is, you can start with free, at HubSpot.com, and just sign up for the CRM. Don't sign up for all the other things. I know one of our startups is spending $800 a month on all the extra bells and whistles around that. You don't need that. You don't need that for right now. And the cool thing about HubSpot is you can integrate things in. David Nichols in the chat just said he uses HubSpot too. The other thing to look at, I know that we have a couple other startups that we're working with that are using Zoho as well, Zoho.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried to do Zoho a while ago, and I wasn't enamored with it. So, what would you estimate the learning time to get up to speed on HubSpot is, David or anybody else?
One thing that I can share is that I just signed up for HubSpot like yesterday, and today I got an email from a real person inviting me for a meeting, and he shared his calendar, and I could just pick how much time I wanted to, when and for how long I wanted to speak with this person. So this might be a resource, someone for you to consult with for additional educational resources for your team.
Okay.
When specifically the thing around HubSpot that I like, even before, talking to people is interesting. A lot of times they've written a lot of content about how to use them. We could actually have the HubSpot. Jello, capture this. We could actually have HubSpot come on and do a program of, hey, how do you engage as the CRM, or more generally a sales funnel group. For TechCrunch, our funnel has got 3 stages: awareness, acquisition, and then service. Service meaning, okay, this is where we actually do the work. Acquisition meaning this is where a prospect becomes a customer. And then awareness is all the stuff that's out there. I made our funnel really simple because, I think part of what you're pointing to, Kim, is it's really complicated to know, and how do we actually measure metrics across all of that? But there's probably other people that have opinions about this as well. Let me get out of the way and see what else. Anyone?
I can just say that. Can you guys hear me?
Maybe it's better that Kevin mutes and then Omar opens his mic.
Can you hear me now?
It's far. So if we can hear better audio if you open your mic and Kevin closes his.
Yeah, no, we're in the same room, and sometimes it's a little bit easier just to have one. But let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say my experience kind of working with HubSpot is that it does have from just I guess the exposure I've had to different types of CRMs, probably the most amount of actual knowledge base and kind of examples and templates and instructions and how-tos and videos. So it can be a bit overwhelming, I felt, to some degree, because if you're not a technical expert in sales and marketing, and you're trying to learn a lot of it, there's a lot of information to absorb, but it does, again, provide a extremely, significant knowledge base of information. So, that's, for what it's worth, kind of the experience that I had, and I'd still recommend kind of going through some of those videos and how-tos.
Yeah. So like I say, I've set up Zoho, I used to do other types of things. I guess the step back one layer is support or things to communicate to my staff what the goal is, rather than me trying to lecture them to do A, B, and C. In other words, background material on the importance of a sales funnel and what the goals are. Because Kevin knows on my team, I actually have a new person who's really good, right? In other words, it's like, here's the plan, dump it off and go do it. So I don't have to do the configuration. Like, I did configuration of Jira and we threw it out and got U-Track mostly for cost, because Jira kept on trying to sell me stuff, right? I didn't need, didn't need any extra stuff. I just needed to track projects. So I'm nervous about some of the tools. What I want to try to do is make sure I communicate the importance as succinctly as possible to the team and try to delegate it.
And you can save the chat before you leave the meeting today. Ron is sharing the website from academy.hubspot.com that has these educational materials that we were talking about. And Albert is sharing that him and his team used HubSpot for 6 years as a startup and migrated to Salesforce afterwards. As there's a lot of experienced biz dev you can hire that are already accustomed to Salesforce. Further, Salesforce is sticky in larger orgs due to integrations with operational software, as well as mature communities through Dreamforce, etc.
I just have a quick question. Kim, have you set up a complete workflow document that says if this happens, then this is the next thing that needs to happen, into an org chart, as it were?
Not at this time. Not at this time. So if there's examples out there to help communicate to the rest of the team, it's helpful to edit, not create. So if you know of examples you put in the chat, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we just start with an Excel doc and just create a tree on the spreadsheet itself. So you start with step one and then the workflow, and then who's responsible and where it goes and what needs to happen next, all sketched out. Then you can decide what tool is going to fit that workflow versus trying to fit into someone else's box.
Good, appreciate it, thanks.
The other thing, so Joel's here because TechBranch is in the process of engaging a marketing group called the Giver Marketing Community. Actually, they have a whole set of Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock Texas time programs. I'm going to try to get them to come on about this. So Joel, the thing about it is, I think instead of getting HubSpot to come speak, it'd be interesting to have you guys come speak. And the one thing that I want to underline for what I think would make it easier for everybody is, I know we always want to customize to our own businesses, but sometimes it's easiest to start with a template. It's like to get the quick start, knowing very well that we have to edit and make it fit right. But Joel, I'd like to have you or Timothy or whoever appropriate from y'all's team, given that that's a need across many different businesses right here that are being expressed, that'd be great to actually have your feedback in there.
Sure, we'd love to do it.
Tell a little bit more about what you guys are about.
So the Giver Marketing Network is, it's a network of marketing professionals that are supporting each other as well as clients to work on projects and to develop different stages of growth. So some companies come in and need to start with basic branding. Some have made that branding leap, or we take them from branding up to visibility, visibility into communication, nurturing, and then ultimately marketing strategies. So, so the network itself has a group of professionals that have their own genius that fall into a specific category. My role in particular in the Giver Marketing Network is the nurturing coach. So generally people come off of the branding level and into my silo, as it were. And everything from graphic design and video production, those are all services that are part of the overall marketing picture that can be worked on and supported, kind of like an Upwork meets a network, if that were a way to kind of think about it. But Timothy Morgan is the founder. He gives a great overview of the entire blueprint for success and kind of how people can plug in where they need it and how to use it to their advantage.
Yeah, and I look forward to having you guys come speak to us, because it's like a lot of times each one of us as entrepreneurs, we have a certain knowledge area, but then we actually need specialized support, like in a I don't want to learn about marketing. I want to market, but I don't want to learn about marketing. I need to go be an expert in my area, just like each one of you has an expertise someplace else.
Right, and then what has to happen behind that? It's okay to learn the principles of marketing, but then do you have the technical knowledge to implement all of the tools that are necessary to do, a specific task, whether it's running paid ads, creating press releases, creating new images, all of those things. You generally need a specialist to come in and make that happen, at least at a high level of efficiency. Yeah,
Cool.
so that's what we try to accomplish.
Well, I'm tempted. I know that there are a lot of people being really shy this morning. David Potes.
Well, silence is part of the conversation, and especially
Okay, go ahead.
Silence is part of the conversation, and especially for someone who has English as a second language, sometimes a third or fourth language. It's just, we can just see like who wants to jump in. We still have probably time for maybe one more, maybe two, depends.
Hey guys, I'm sorry for the noise in the background. There's some work being done here in my house. First of all, I want just to, Randall, I'm sorry, I don't know why my chat is disabled and I couldn't answer you, but yeah, I'm here in Monterrey, Mexico.
Good, I need restaurant recommendations.
Oh, there are some really good restaurants. Yeah. Yeah.
But Kevin, we got to talk about the important things, food and tequila.
Claro que sí.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk afterwards and let you know a good place to go.
I would appreciate that. I'm going to be there in about a month.
Sure. So I'm sorry, because of the work that's being done here in my house, I couldn't. I jumped a little late to the conversation. I don't know what's the main subject. Is there something specific you guys are talking about? So I apologize.
This is an open forum for anyone to jump in and just share or ask whatever they want. So it could either be an ask for support or guidance. It could be, you could be sharing a win that you want to brag about and celebrate with us. Maybe there's a challenge that you're struggling with. Yes,
thank you, Ines. I'm tempted to practice my Portuguese with you, but I'll do that later. So yeah, this year for us with the poll, we've been having a lot of work. we structure our different projects that we have with the virtual hospital, and we structure that to be under the Apollo Health umbrella. So it's coming up as a project that we're developing for a third party, that in this case is a combination between the Mexican Hospital Consortium and a company called here in Mexico called Previta. And we're practically doing all the process of implementation of the virtual care center, and we will be in charge of operating the virtual care center here in Mexico. Just a little bit of context, the Mexican Hospital Consortium is the largest private hospital group here in Mexico with 52 hospitals in 37 different cities. And so we've been having a lot of work with that. But at the same time, one of the things that I wanted to bring up here in the table, and this is more specifically for Kevin and Omar. Besides, Omar, we've been talking about the company from Mexico called TEEB, and they're doing really interesting things with blockchain and NFTs, and it's really interesting. But besides that, I've been kind of like not intentionally bumping into different startups that are doing really interesting stuff. And I'm just wondering how can we, and there's startups that are in the healthcare space. So I'm trying, how can we, because there's, I believe there's something interesting that we can, I'm not sure what it is, but we can do there with them. So I'm thinking, I was going to contact you, Omar, later about this, but just taking the advantage here to let you know that there are more startups that are trying to, that seem interesting, and I'm just wondering if we could, with the patient innovation program, we can. I know there's something there, I just don't quite know what it is.
Would you please restate your question?
Yeah, it's not a specific question. It's just more of a, I don't know, like an intent that I've been being contacted by different startups. The last one is a startup that is specifically, actually, they're going to be based in Austin. And what it's, if I remember correctly, it's like a student clinic, online student clinic. It's really interesting. And they are offering different healthcare services for students and in different ranges. And they are mounting this on top of a platform that we are using, and that's why I found out about them. And it's really interesting what they're doing. They already have some interest from venture capitalists in Austin. And I'm still trying to figure out what's the way to how can, I know there's ways for them to join TechRanch, but just trying to figure out what's the correct way to make it more seamlessly. So it's not a specific question, just a comment in general that, there's something there that we can probably take advantage of as the patient innovation program.
So yeah, I think first of all, I'm glad you brought that up, David, because I think it's really exciting what TEEB Healthcare is doing and coming up with. And as we discussed with them in the last call, and I know we need to coordinate with Kevin, a follow-up call with them as well, so Kevin can meet them. But what they present is a very interesting, almost like foundational infrastructure capability for the Patient Care Innovation Bridge program, where a lot of other healthcare solutions that we look at, or startup and business models that we see are pieces or components that can be laid over that kind of infrastructure. And obviously, because it's a blockchain based infrastructure and platform, it's kind of again a more future looking or forward looking capacity and capability within healthcare versus kind of what exists today, right? In terms of, whether it's in the US or outside the US and other markets, healthcare as a system and an infrastructure. So, to answer kind of maybe your thought around that, David, again, I think that the other companies, the other opportunities, we need to obviously just kind of evaluate where they are and what they need, and how the TechRanch community and the Patient Care Innovation Bridge can service them, and how they can also bring value to the bridge, right? And kind of create a more productive, fruitful kind of scenario with these companies, so that it's more effective. And I think we just need to plan a bit more around that and bring them on board. I'll just again assume and maybe make the claim that you are our Mexico, head or country manager for the Patient Care Innovation Bridge. Omar Shaker's, our Egypt country manager. I kind of co-do that with him, but we're looking at other markets and opportunities to bring, from Hungary and from others, interesting healthcare solutions as well. So it's a matter of now kind of just trying to piece some of that together. And I think we can figure that out, together.
Perfect. Perfect. Let's do that.
One of the things we'll want to do is we can actually share. I want to make sure that before we run out of our time too, and as if it's okay, you mentioned earlier before we were recording about sharing the Slack channels.
Yes, so the Slack channels they're set up similar to this conversation that we're having here today, in the sense that it has different places for different kinds of conversations. So there's like a general channel. You can also go to a specific industry like EdTech, or you can make a request as well. So there are different things. And this is a way of communicating with other people in the network. And so if you're interested in joining, you can send an email out to Jello, and Jello is going to post his email in the chat in a moment. And that's ea@techwrenchaustin.com. EA stands for Executive Assistance. And with that, I will hand it back to Kevin for closing today. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, cool. It'd be great to actually have you all involved in these different channels. The key thing is the channels are not for selling. We're not going to invite a lot of vendors into the channels, because part of the idea is not to, I used to, back when we did the same paradigm with Bootstrap Austin, which Bootstrap Austin was one of the groups. I was the chief architect of that group here in Austin. We used to joke about having the Fight Club rules of Bootstrap Austin. The idea is, first rule of Fight Club is that you don't talk about Fight Club. Second rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. First rule of this interaction is that you don't market to the group, right? But if you're looking for something, make a request to the group. Like, you can make a request. The cool thing about the request, I don't know if you can see this, but there's 190 members in here. If you go to the general area and you want to just generally say something, there's 276 members in here. If you want to find about different events that are happening, as an example, Biomed SA has a pitch process. I think there's like $100,000 available and this is free. One of our members from a long time ago, his name is Royce. He said, "Hey, Kevin, you should get people to be involved in BioFest Invest." And now he just rejoined. At the time, we didn't have this, but Dr. Royce, this is him right here. That you can see where he joined in. We didn't have Slack channels. We had just a big email list. As I was mentioning a while ago, and as Ines said, we have EdTech, and last week, Stephen Galbraith and Greg from Fidelium said, "Hey, we'd like to get this more active." I reached out to Holly Custard, who's that former chief academic officer at Pearson, and she said, "Hey, I would love to be involved," and so she's joined, and now there's interactions that are happening there. We'll see more activity happening here, I'm sure, but this is how we can leverage my personal network to then support the different areas, whether it's food security, financial security, whatever it might be, and contributing to, or the mental health. There's a lot of activity that's happened here historically. That being said, as we try to keep this to an hour, and just because all of us are busy building our companies and stuff like that. So let me just start wrapping up by saying, if you want to be in the community and you haven't gotten an invite yet, Jello is putting, right now, send him an email about getting involved. We're going to have a more formal way of doing this where it doesn't take emails at this URL. Right now, make sure you're on our newsletter list. If you have a country that you care about and you want to be involved to being the country manager, because obviously I think we have at least 12 countries represented right now, even though in the studio audience, even though there's more people that are seeing this on LinkedIn. And so there's a place to sign up as a mentor, a place to sign up as a country manager, a place to sign up onto the newsletter. There will be a way of onboarding into the community for free. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to limit it to entrepreneurs that are building businesses that drive shared prosperity. We're going to kind of really whittle out. I don't want to have a lot of vendors there that are just trying to sell you things unless they're specifically sponsoring and organizing around supporting the community, and they've made some commitment to organizing the community. That commitment could either be a financial commitment, or it could be that they're supporting in a very specific way that's very visible. So I'm open to that as well if anyone has those type of requests. I get at least one request per hour from vendors that are knocking on my door through LinkedIn and email, at least one per hour, and that's not hyperbole, on a weekly basis. And so part of what I want to make sure I ask is, if you hear this, my voice right now about what I'm talking about, don't send me a note saying, hey, I want to be, let me have a 15-minute conversation with you. No, be clear about how you want to support the community. If this is to the people that are in vendor conversations, because I really want to make sure that the first and foremost that we're here to serve our core entrepreneurs that are driving shared prosperity in the world. It's an honor to be a part of a community that's driving vision of entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values and changing the world for the better. Thank you for being here today. Next week, we'll talk about the mental health special interest group, as well as more generally the Global Health Security Initiative and how you can get involved. Many of you have ventures that might be in other areas, like as an example, there's an EdTech startup that now is being involved in mental health, and there's some funding that's happening around that based on the conversation I had earlier this week with Holly Ann Custard, as an example. So this is how it happens. But make sure that get involved and make requests. Every once in a while, people are a little bit shy about making a request. So please go ahead and do that. I want to thank Ines as my historical training partner in Aikido and also leading the conversation. I like her style because she had a point. Sometimes I'm like, come on, guys, and I shake you guys because I love you, and that's the way I'm going to show you how. But I like her style because it's actually it really works as well. We need to have lots of different voices and lots of different types of way of engaging the network. Thank you for that, Ines.
You remind me of my calls that I used to have when I worked as a project manager at Motorola. And then these were international calls with people from all over the world. And then the Americans would ask, so does everybody agree? Okay, let's move on. And then the call would be over. And then we would be talking with each other offline. It's like, what did we agree to? Or like, no, we didn't agree.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that, because obviously part of the role of this, since as an example, we have South Australian entrepreneurs driving activity in Ethiopia. One of my favorite examples ever. It's the wrong time of the day to have South Australians on the program, but we're going to get them to come back as well. And we'll talk about these different examples. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it up for the day. Let's keep on driving on your ventures. We'll have more to tell you next week. If you have a specific thing you'd like to see us talk about, make sure that myself and Jello know, and we'll bring it into the conversation. And with that, I always appreciate getting to work with you guys, that you're changing the world for the better. Let's drive shared prosperity to the world. Let's go change the world for the better together. Thank you all.